All right, I'm gonna make a video that I didn't want to make. Um, my experience being diagnosed with schizophrenia, and actually, I've been diagnosed with like schizoaffective, which is sort of, I don't understand all of it, but it's a combination of bipolar and schizophrenia. Um, so this sort of disorder can be like, it can be one of the most serious conditions. It's like, it's right. I mean, I don't really know everything, like I said, but there's psychosis, there's, you know, these sort of diagnoses that are unique in themselves. But the thing about them is they can be drug induced. So you go to a fucking rave and do a bunch of acid, do some acid, or you do some like psychoactive drugs, and then you smoke pot and you drink, or whatever you do. And I think it's mostly psychedelics, and I think they can really fuck you up. Personally, I wish I never did acid, and I did acid one time a long time ago. But it's weird because I've heard different stories, and I don't really pay attention to a lot of the shit online. But yeah, I've been diagnosed with a few different things. I don't like being open about it, but I will be open about it. But the thing is my experience goes really deep, and I've actually written a book on it. I'm actually writing another book on it, published on Amazon. I think the link's in the description. I don't really know. I don't really know if I'm gonna get any followers. Or subscriber, or views on this video. So it's really whatever. I guess I'm just saying that because I've had this channel for so long, but now I'm trying to actually make content that's relevant. So it's sort of like, well, I don't really know what's gonna happen. I guess it's just whatever. But yeah, I mean, the whole story goes really deep, and I have written a book, so I can't really probably cover this all in one video. It'd probably take way too long for me to just talk about it in one video. But really, I guess some of the things I've learned is there's different opinions. So you can go to one doctor, he'll try to give you medication, and then you say something like you have homicidal thoughts or something. They'll try to give you more medication, and then it can get really it can be a really serious thing, especially since this is kind of the kind of mental illnesses that people do really bizarre things, and commit some really tragic and intense crimes, and I'm not gonna really get into that, but the doctor's opinion, but it can be really dangerous. The doctor's opinion can reflect it reflects their opinion. Their opinion is unique to them. They have their own experience. They have their own practice. And sometimes they've been doing it all their life, and they can diagnose you with psychosis or schizophrenia or these different things. But the thing, I don't really like to think that, oh yeah, they're conspiring against, they're trying to just put out medications for manufacturers, you know what I mean? Like, it's not like, because I would think that sometimes, and I would get really, I'd get really skeptical, and sometimes you could say, oh, he's paranoid delusional at some points, but now I have a lot clearer of a viewpoint of it, and basically I would get really skeptical about the doctors and their opinion and what they were doing, and I had to experience one of my first doctors. I had to have that experience with that doctor to realize I didn't have to do everything they were telling me I had to do, and I am an adult and I can do whatever I want. That's where it can get dangerous, though, of course, because people go off their medications and do crazy shit. What I kind of found out, though, I discovered a lot about it. I found out a lot of it was in my head, but a lot of it is real. I found out a lot of things, like I'm a fucked up individual, I guess is, best way to say it. And I know that I'm a good person. I know that I don't, like, I've been in these states of mind where it's like people don't understand me. They don't get what it's like. There are people that can understand it, and they've experienced it, and they know what's going on. and some people know what it is, so that they're kind of directed away from it. And you can kind of get belittled, and you can kind of get in this category where you're getting discriminated against, and people are hating you, especially if you know you don't work a job and you get these benefits and stuff. They can start hating you for that because their job pays for Social Security and shit. And that's a whole nother thing, but it can kind of become like very, like, it can take time to experience it and learn what is really going on. And for a doctor to write a book, you're not going to get the same opinion. I wrote the book I wrote out of a real experience, out of real things that happened to me that pretty much are like, this is what it's like from my perspective, and these are the things that I experienced that can be dangerous and very serious. When you have a doctor and you have people that are constantly telling you what you are, it doesn't really help you pretty much live for yourself. You can't, and that's one thing, is when you're just believing everything they're telling you, and then it's almost like you start thinking that it's happening, it's like you're feeding the whole reality of it being real. And then you have to define what it is. Well, what is schizophrenia? What is bipolar disorder? Why do we have these labels? Why do we have these diagnoses that we put on people? It's because they have unstable, dangerous, they put people at risk, and it's dangerous, and they're at risk, other people are at risk, and it's a matter of health. It's health. It's like, your physical health, but it's your mental health, so it could be just as dangerous. And that's that's why we have the terms, that's why it exists. And so, but whenever you think about that, okay, so they're saying that I'm mentally unfit, I'm mentally unstable, I'm mentally, they have this opinion. And I've been in such bizarre mind frames that I was, there was no, like, it wasn't even a matter of if they were valid or not. It was like, well, I'm so spun out, I can't even keep a fucking apartment and a job or anything, and but like I was saying earlier, the whole drug induced thing, some people, they go through drug induced, and then and I know that a lot of people know these kinds of things, but I'm just making a video because I'm trying to promote my YouTube channel, my sad little YouTube channel. But but yeah, it can be drug induced, so you can come out of it. And I've heard stories about people that have had it and then they come out of it. And I've heard people like around my age too, because I'm 29 years old. I've heard of people that they are in their 20s, they're schizophrenic and they have a lot of issues, and then when they start to go in their 30s, they come out of it. And so I don't know what is really going on, like, scientifically. And scientifically, when it comes down to it, they're just giving you pretty much tranquilizers, these antipsychotics and shit. They're like tranquilizers, and they just kind of can really put you down. And see, and then the problem that happens is when you're so unstable and you're supposed to be responsible for communicating to another doctor, when you're supposed to be so stable enough to communicate to another doctor on these very dangerous things like taking these medications, the side effects and all this stuff, when you're supposed to be communicating to them and you're unstable anyways, it's like a catch-22. It's like, how are you, because you get this, because people tend to not really trust people so lightly. So when you got a doctor that comes out of nowhere, it's like, it can be kind of this catch-22 where it's like, well, I'm not stable enough to even really tell you what's really going on, because, I'm so insane. And even if I was stable enough, I don't trust you anyway. But even if, you know, and then it comes down to just getting yourself out of the situation. You don't even fucking care anymore. You know, that's how it happened for me. I don't even fucking care anymore. I'm just like, dude, I can't live like this anymore. You know, I can't live the rest of my life sitting in front of a fucking TV on disability, or going into the fucking nut house, or going to fucking jail because I did something stupid. And I didn't do any, I guess I did some things that were pretty serious, but not anything that, you know, I only got misdemeanors on my record. So, but, you know, but to a certain point, it's like it can be opinions, and they can give you these medications, and it can be a very dangerous situation if you don't realize what's happening. And see, I think that's where I mean, I've talked to several different doctors, and the most recent one that I got, he was saying, you know, I'm just expressing this online because, you know, I don't care anymore. You know, it's just like people are, you know, if it can help someone or someone likes it or whatever, that's cool. And so I was talking to the most recent doctor. He was really leveling with me and not trying to give me medications or anything. And I was talking to him about what was really going on in my head, and it totally made sense to me. And when you think about you know, because whenever you go into a doctor's office, you say, "Oh, I'm having homicidal thoughts," you know, it can be taken really seriously. And and that's the thing is, and I'm not trying to say, I know that people could watch this video and be like worried about me, or, you know, they could be like, "Oh my God, this guy is crazy," or "This guy's unstable," or whatever. I've had years of recovery to this point, so it's not like, oh yeah, hey, he's not taking meds, so he's gonna lose it or some shit. Or I'm talking, you know, I feel like I've lost it sometimes. I've lost it so many times that I remember it too. But so the doctor, though, he can really level with me, and one of the things, like, homicidal thoughts are common. You know, you have to think homicidal in a self-defense situation. So for me to go into the doctor's office and be like, "Hey, I have homicidal thoughts," and the doctor says, "Oh, hey, we're going to put you on medications," it's like, okay, well, I guess I didn't really clarify what the homicidal thoughts were really, you know. That's not really, you know, because if you say, "Oh, I was having homicidal thoughts because I was thinking about how I was going to have to shoot someone if they tried to rob my house. I was thinking of what I would have to do in a real situation to defend myself if I had to kill someone in real life." You know what I'm saying? So in that situation, you're not crazy. But it can come this thing where that's all they say is, "Are you having some homicidal thoughts?" But that's just the simplicity of the question. But if you really answer and be like, well, yeah, but I was more thinking of more of a realistic self-defense sort of, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's not really hard for a person to understand what I'm saying right there. Okay. But for them to ask that, and then they made the decision, "Oh, I'm going to give you this medication, based off of that," it just doesn't make sense. It really doesn't make sense at all. And see, that's where you have, like, okay, it makes sense, you know, obviously people are at risk and they do fucking crazy shit and they put other people at risk, and it's a very serious, dangerous situation, especially when they don't realize what's going on. And that's what I'm saying is, I didn't realize what was going on for a long time. But what I ultimately realized is the medications were making it worse than it actually was, so I had to quit them. And then but my experience is different than others, because some people are stuck like that for their whole life, and they have these things, you know, voices or whatever, these delusions, these psychotic breaks and all this. I think people can have a lot of psychotic mindsets, mind frames and mentalities lingering and living, functioning with it. But you know, they would never be so crazy to go to a nut house or something. And they have, you know, it's a lot of time they tell themselves they're fine. They don't want to be crazy. They don't want to admit it because they're full of pride or whatever, you know, and that can be a thing too, obviously. But they can live like that their whole life, you know, just crazy, psychotic. But then, you know, when you look at what's happening, it's like online and stuff, it's like, well, okay, well, being, you know, having outbursts and speaking your mind and being all erratic or whatever can kind of be like a normal thing now, you know, to just, you know, it's just like, well, okay, well, what is sane? What is this? What is that? And it's like, okay, I just need to step away from this shit because I'm fine, you know? And, you know, it's like, well, maybe I'm not fine. Like, you know, like, what is completely healthy? Is anyone ever really completely like sane? Like, sane, what is if sane is happy, if stable is happy, then I don't think anyone is ever really sane, and it doesn't make sense. But, you know, but really on a real level, when it comes to mental health, it has a line to where you're dangerous, you know, okay, maybe not even dangerous, but it's like, okay, and see, there's a lot of people out there that aren't dangerous, but they're still mentally ill. And that's another thing too, is when you associate being dangerous with mentally ill, it's like, okay, this person's mentally ill, oh, they're dangerous, don't trust them, oh, no. You know, and then it's like you get judged, like I was saying earlier, like you get discriminated, and it's almost like you're underprivileged at that point, too. But, you know, society does have a way to take care of those people, you know, Social Security and all this, which is, you know, I am grateful for. I am very grateful that other people have that. And that's one of the great things about the country, about US. That being said, I mean, that gets into a lot of people that's saying what is bad about the country and controversial things and all this. But no, the doctor's opinion can be a really dangerous thing, especially if you don't realize what's going on. And you can't see, if you can't make your own decisions, they're going to make them for you to a certain point. And if you can't just get the confidence to just believe and just, you know, and I'm not trying to say that, oh yeah, you just believe this, so you shouldn't take your medications. I'm saying, well, to a certain point, I had to take a stand and be like, okay, I can't just sit here and absorb these doctors and almost like I'm feeding them and they're feeding me bullshit. You know, and people do come out of it and people do recover. And to a certain point, it's like, well, I don't need this shit anymore. But, you know, yeah, it's like, what is the definition of sane? What is the definition of happy? You know, like, you know, life is life. Life can be really intense. Life can be really serious. It can have a lot of things that break you down. And especially when you don't know, like, no one really knows which day is going to be their last, man. I mean, and life can be very emotional, be very intense, be the extreme of any state of mind, you know, and that's getting kind of over the top with it. But, you know, but in that certain in that perspective, it's like, okay, I don't need to take it there. You know, I don't need to take it there. I don't need to worry so much. I'm fine, comfortable. If I really need help, I can call the appropriate, you know what I'm saying? If I needed to, and this is serious, if I needed to, I would call the suicide hotline. And I urge anybody watching this, if you need to call the suicide hotline, or you know someone, or you know, I urge you to try and get them help or get yourself help. And I'm not going to sit here and offer people lies or try and say that I have all the answers or anything like that. But I did have to take a stand for myself to where the point where I couldn't be that person anymore. And I won't be judged anymore either. I don't play fucking games anymore. You know, I don't play games with people. And you know, if you want to sit here and talk to me and you're a doctor, I won't play games with you. I don't care if you have a degree or not. I won't play games with you, and I don't have to do what you want me to. I'm not going to be your guinea pig. You know, I'm not going to take your fucking medications, and I don't have to. And if you were to obstruct that and say, oh, he has to do this by law, I mean, what the fuck? You know, I'm fucking fine, you know. I'm kind of being a little bit, because I mean, it has caused me a lot of problems experiencing it and dealing with it, and it has made me pretty angry, you know. Naturally, it's not a mentally ill thing. People get angry, you know. To just be like, oh, everything's because this guy is mentally ill. I mean, that's just not realistic at all. But so I realized a lot through this experience, and I realized, it's almost like they do kind of like force the medications down your throat, and it can be a really aggravating situation to where, you have to take, like I was saying, and I know I've said it a couple times, I'm kind of repeating myself, but you do. I just can't express it enough. You have to take a stand. I quit taking medications and years ago. And I've still had problems, and I'm still on a road to recovery. I'm very aware of my situation. I'm very aware of my mental health, and, I'm not fucking, some people, they just, they're drug addicts or whatever, and they just smoke meth and drink or whatever, and, I'm not doing any of that. And I can say that confidently. I can say that legitly, free and clear. I'm one of the people that has pretty much done everything he could to pretty much be okay, and maybe not everything, but I'm one of the people that really wanted to get better, that really, and it's like, okay, well, this person really wants to get better, but they're just stuck like that. And that's the thing that I ran into. And you start talking to these doctors about it, and it's like they can't even really give you the answers. They can't even, a lot of the time, they can't even really break down scientifically why you are the way you are. And it becomes a thing to where, oh, wow, it's almost a theory that you're even experiencing this. It's just a word to say that this is what this is, but, they can break down some of the chemical processes, and I don't know all of the details to have a full, full-formed opinion on it. Because if I studied it more and stuff, I could probably have a fuller, more deeper understanding, a complex understanding for it. But from what I know, and maybe someone could shed some light on me or something and be like, hey, this. But no, I mean, I was talking to one of, the latest doctor I was talking to him about it, and he was saying, yeah, I mean, it's not even a real, like, they are basically tranquilizers, and they are basically, they can't really even say that there's anything that really says that it exists, And another thing about voices, and like I said, about homicidal thoughts and suicidal thoughts too, because just because you have suicidal thoughts, and see, that's the thing, is the medication can help you or make it worse, and sometimes you're in a state of mind where you can't even tell if it's worse or better. And I've experienced this. You can't tell if you're worse or better. And it gets to a point to where it's like, well, how are you supposed to communicate this to a doctor if you can't even really tell for yourself? Because you can be unstable, or you're stable enough to tell, but your state of mind is altered in such a way that it can be hard to tell. And then sometimes, then you take action, and then, once, if a person does die from the situation, which people do, it's a situation where it's like, maybe you were better off without it, even though you were having issues. Okay. And it can be a very serious thing. Now, it can take time. It can take a lot of time, actually. Even now, I mean, I'm not completely better, but I was to the point, because I experienced like really hardcore, like roller coaster depression, bipolar disorder. And not everyone really understands this. But here's the thing about opinions, though. Okay, so I was trying to, I experienced like hardcore where I'd be really low. So to the point where before I would only be like, sometimes I'd only be awake like 7 hours a day. And I wouldn't want to be awake at all because I was so depressed. But I was on like 4 different medications, which was probably making me worse. And that was at one point in my life. I have a history of experience, probably like 10 years experience with it, actually, now that I think about it. I've had my peaks. But I mean, and that can be the thing about when you're talking about opinions, is there are facts. Obviously they prescribe drugs on factual information to where, it helped this many people, or, so there is some realistic information to the medications and stuff. I'm not really saying that, but I can also say that it's sort of subjective in the way that they prescribe it. Sort of like, okay, well, this is the solution for this. But it can be kind of a risky situation and not be foolproof. And it can also be a temporary thing to where you don't have to take it all your life, you know? It's weird. I mean, and you see, this is where I get into the territory I was talking about before, where it's like, okay, well, I don't have a full sort of knowledge base on it or opinion on it. But really, when it comes down to it, I have enough to go off of to where I know that, you know, you can get different opinions that, you know, it's like, if I really break it down, you know, it's dumb. And then, you know, sometimes, you know, you act a certain way or whatever, or you know, you do something online and people are like, they jump to conclusions and they say, you're doing this. I heard someone saying that I was projecting something. I can't remember what it's called. Like you're projecting, you're victimizing yourself sort of thing, and you're projecting it on other people like it's their fault. Which I do rap music and I do acting bits and skits, and I'm a voice actor and I do animations and stuff. So, and I'm a writer. So whenever I go into character, or, you know, I go into character, or I'm on a project, I like doing this stuff because it works with my mind. And you could say, oh, you're mentally ill mind, sort of. But I think that people like me can be creative geniuses because when you think about that, they have these voices in their head or whatever. They have this thing going on in their head where their mind sort of hallucinates something, right? It's delusional. It's like something's happening that's not happening, right? But when you think about that, that's a gift to think something's happening and it's not happening. Isn't that crazy to think about? No one's even going to watch this video. But no, it is crazy to think about. It's like, that is actually a creative gift. And I didn't realize that until I started doing more art for, you know, kind of therapeutic stuff and all this. But no, it's completely true. And you know, it doesn't mean that you have to have these symptoms to be that way. But you know, I need some water and I'm going to end this video soon. But what can really be the thing about it is when it's almost like no matter, you get in this frame of mind, and here's another thing that happens. You get in this frame of mind where it's like no matter what you do, people are like looking at you and they're thinking about how you're mentally ill or something. And it's almost like they're conspiring against you. And people don't like you because you're mentally ill and you're misbehaving because of it. And they know it. And that's sort of kind of a specific sort of delusion kind of thing. It's sort of a specific hallucination. It comes in line with paranoid thought and stuff. But when you think about a lot of that stuff, like victimizing yourself, to a certain point, it can be a very real thing to where, and it can be really frustrating. It can be very emotional to be in that sort of, you're kind of locked in and you're not getting, like, you're not being respected by people. You're not getting as liked online as other, and that's a whole different thing of the evils of social media and what it can do to people. Just from the liking system, which is sort of a ranking system of popularity, which can really mess things up, but it's a form of entertainment. But you know, when you realize the realities of it, it's not a big deal. You know, it doesn't even. But sometimes it's like when I'm myself, it's like, well, what? I can't be myself? Is that it? You know, every little thing I do is a symptom, is a defect of some fucking diagnosis that they don't know, can't even really 100% validate. Hello. It doesn't even make sense. It doesn't even make sense. And I think to that point, when you get to that point, when you can realize all of it and see it and sort of, I'm over here standing on my own and I don't need to subject myself to this shit. You know, I can be confident in myself. I can believe in myself. you know, but you know, you get to the point where if you're hiding in denial and you're trying to be strong, but you don't have to do it alone. And that's the other part about it too. So it can kind of get kind of complex. It can kind of get deep. It can get really dark. It can get really dangerous. It can be, you know, it's a very serious situation. And that's sort of, you know, I seen the, you know, kind of mental health awareness is trending more and more. And so I felt the need to kind of put this video out there. And I guess that's all I'm really saying for this one. I hope I didn't jump around too much. And please like and subscribe if anyone even watches. Sad face. Happy face. Confident. Individualized face. All right. Thanks.